Radical.
There's various things about the Nintendo Switch 2 that I am interested in discussing, and I think this is the craziest potential launch of any game system ever, considering there's a lot of things around the Nintendo Switch 2 outside of regular stuff. One thing I want to note that I'm not making a separate upload on and just squeezing in here is the joysticks, sadly, might still have some drift in them because they're not using and utilizing Hall effect joysticks. Now, they say they're better joysticks than before, but without using the Hall effect joysticks, there still might be some drift. All right, so let's go ahead and peel the Band-Aid back here and talk about the tariffs in concerning to the Switch, and maybe I'll talk a little bit about the tariffs beyond the Switch, but mostly it's going to be about the Switch and how the Trump tariffs are going to possibly affect the Switch. Now, the pre-orders have launched for the Switch 2, but not in the US, because Nintendo, let's see here, Nintendo making an official statement. They said the pre-orders for the Switch 2 in the US will not start April 9, 2025 in order to assess the potential impact of tariffs and evolving market conditions, Nintendo said in a statement to GameSpot. I think also they've delayed Canada, I believe. They said they'll update this at a later date, but the launch still is June the 5th. So that's unchanged. It's still launching in the US on June the 5th, but we don't know how much it's going to be. Now, it's a possible situation that it's not going to be $450 and $500 respectively, because if you do the math here, on Wednesday, Trump made a 10% tariff blanket on all imports with countries like China. China and Japan are supposedly the worst offenders, and China gets a 54% tariff, and Japan gets a 24% tariff. So basically a tariff, I'm not the guy to talk about tariffs, admittedly. Like, this is a topic I've never really delved into. I'm not exactly an economist. There's maybe a lot of you out there that can explain the tariffs a whole lot better to me than I can even explain to you, but the pre-orders have been delayed because they have to assess the market conditions and what these tariffs levied is going to have an effect on. Now, I'm taking it that Nintendo's not wanting to lose money. They're not wanting to lose. Well, see, you might say it's just 24%, but here it's a little more confusing than that. You see, now, I guess I got to get into some other numbers here that I'm reading. They do, in Cambodia and Vietnam, they make some switches. And in Cambodia, let's see here. In Cambodia, it's 49%. And in Vietnam, it is 46%. So around half. There's a possibility, if you just look at the tariffs, there's a nightmare scenario that the Switch could be fucking $800-900. I mean, it's just a possibility. Maybe my math is off here, but am I right on this? The Switch could be fucking $800-900. I hope that's not the case. I mean, I'm not getting one, but for everybody that wants a Switch 2, that wants to pay $80 for their brand new games like Mario Kart World, I hope it's not $800-900, but we don't know. This is uncharted territory. I don't think there's ever been a time, ever, from back in the original Nintendo, that there's ever been a console launch around a time where there's a trade/tariff war. So we don't know what this is going to affect. But I will say, it says a lot that there's products that are being pre-ordered, that can't be pre-ordered, that are on pause and delay because the companies are assessing what's going to happen with America. And if someone hears something in the background, I'm a multitasker. I think it's like Amy Grant or something in the CD. So just letting you know, I have to multitask because I'm a busy guy. Speaking of my business, which a lot of you, if you don't know, I sell physical media in my store on the weekends. Now, my business hopefully will not be super impacted by the tariffs because most of what I buy is used stuff. So I take and sell media like games media, CDs, movies, and when I get them, they're used. But there are things that I buy for my store that I'm sure are made in China. Definitely mostly made in China. Like, cheap signs to display things that I order off of Amazon or eBay, stuff of that nature. So I'm wondering now if a game system can potentially, and I hope not, someone explain to me I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. If a game system could actually double in price because of tariffs levied against Japan, or, things that are coming from China that might be twice as much money, because I'm just looking at the math here. I hope that's not the case. I hope I'm incredibly wrong. Then what does that mean for people that just buy things beyond video game systems? Like, I'm not making a separate upload here. I could, but beyond video game systems, just quickly here, what does this mean for Americans? I know there's a reasoning behind the tariffs because, well, from what I can gather, the idea is we need to punish countries that have been taking advantage of America in the trade. There's a trade imbalance. Also, the idea is to bring manufacturing back to America. I guess to maybe build some sweatshops here. I guess because they see the companies, right? Let me explain to you like this. It's a good idea. But if companies have gotten used to outsourcing and paying next to nothing for people to produce their goods, I think most vehicles are now made in Mexico, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But yet, new vehicles are incredibly high priced. They don't pass that savings on to people. So I get the idea behind it. It's a good idea to actually bring a lot of manufacturing back to America. That creates a lot of jobs. Yeah. But see, there's ways about doing it. And if the idea is you're going to impose the tariffs to punish the other countries, and then these corporations in America are going to see that, and they're going to be like, oh, crap, we got to start we can't outsource anymore. We've got to build these manufacturing plants in America. One person said that iPhones will now be made in America. How long is that going to take to build the infrastructure? How many years, how many decades is that going to take? Admittedly, I don't know about a lot of this stuff. I'm curious. I think this is probably the wrong move. Just coming from a person that buys things. I buy a lot of stuff and sometimes a lot of tech that's made not in America. Can you please tell me what tech is made in America? What the fuck is made in America now? So if you buy things, this seems like a tax on regular, everyday American people. That's what it seems like. And, there's a lot of people that maybe are behind this and are thumbs up on this move, the tariffs, until they see that they have to pay twice as much for a Nintendo Switch 2. See, until it affects you, you might be happy about it. But this is something that, could actually affect everybody. And it could already, we have a problem in America and maybe a lot of places in the world. I'll tell you from America, where there's inflation and things are rising and rising and rising, and wages are not rising that much. So if you already have an inflation problem and you add to this a possibility of things that you get from other countries that admittedly are pretty fucking cheap, if you make them twice as much money, if you make them cost twice as much beyond the Nintendo Switch, this is for everything, then that's not a good thing. That's not good in the short term for American people. So with all these calculations, I wonder if they made the calculation about how much it'll actually hurt American people. Like me, I got money. I got a good bit of money, so I'm probably going to survive this. But, a lot of people might not survive these tariffs. A lot of people maybe are paycheck to paycheck, and this seems like a massive tax on the American consumer. Unless you buy everything in America, made in America. But the problem is, like I said, the infrastructure's not here. How long is it going to take for the infrastructure to be here? America really hasn't made shit in a lot of decades, has it? You don't think America is a big manufacturing giant right now of a lot of things because of all the outsourcing that, happened decades and decades ago. So the idea, bring jobs back to America. Fine. But in the meantime, if you're punishing and hurting the pocketbooks of regular everyday Americans, then maybe you should consider, not doing that shit.